If you walk into a supermarket today, everything screams at you. Organic, fresh, farm to table. Ugh, it's exhausting, isn't it? But let's rewind to Britain in the 1970s. Back then, fresh was a suspicious concept. If a vegetable hadn't been boiled for 40 minutes or sealed in a metal coffin for 3 years, could you really trust it? We often hear the horror stories about the 70s, the 3-day weeks, the blackouts, the winters where we all froze in our polyester jumpers. And yes, people say we ate tinned food because we were struggling. That's the tragic version. But, there is another truth, a funnier truth. We didn't just eat processed food because we had to. We ate it because we thought it was the future. We genuinely believed that a potato made of powder was scientifically superior to a potato that grew in the dirt. We were living in a culinary delusion. A delicious, salty, beige delusion. Let's start with the undisputed king of the covert, the Frey Bentos pie. Ah, Frey Bentos. Even the name sounded exotic, didn't it? Like a holiday destination you couldn't afford. But the reality was a flat, round tin that looked less like a dinner and more like a landmine. Opening one of these wasn't cooking, it was a combat sport. You had that little metal key. You'd hook it on, turn it, krr, krr, and pray to the gods of aluminium that the key didn't snap. If it snapped, well, you starved. That was the rule. But if you succeeded, you put that metal disc in the oven, and then the magic trick happened. The pastry would rise. It puffed up, golden and flaky, looking absolutely majestic. It was a lie, of course, a beautiful buttery lie, because underneath that perfect crust was a grey sludge of gravy and something that was legally described as meat. Did we care? No, because Frey Bentos offered the one thing every British mother in the 70s desperately needed: safety. You couldn't ruin it. It was already dead. You couldn't overcook it. You couldn't undercook it. It was indestructible. And then there was the sound of the corned beef tin. You know the sound, the schluck, as the meat slid out of the can in one solid rectangular block. There is something deeply psychological about 70s food and geometry. Everything was square. Spam was square. Corned beef was square. Why? Because of fairness. In a decade of high inflation, a square block of meat meant Mum could slice it into 6 mathematically identical pieces. No arguments, no fighting. It wasn't gastronomy, it was geometry, and it tasted like, victory. If tinned food was about survival, then powdered food was about science. In the 1970s, we were obsessed with the space age. We saw astronauts eating dried food in orbit, and we thought, yes, I want that. I want my dinner to look like sawdust before I eat it. Enter the absolute titan of the era, Smash. For the uninitiated, Smash was instant mashed potato. It came in a packet. It looked like fish food, small, dry, white flakes that smelt faintly of despair. But the marketing, genius. Do you remember the Martians, those metal robots from the advert? Beep, beep, boop. They would watch humans boiling and peeling actual potatoes and just laugh their metal heads off. They mocked us for using fresh vegetables. The catchphrase was drilled into our brains. For mash, get smash. And it worked. We actually felt embarrassed to peel a potato. We thought, goodness, how primitive. I should be eating these dehydrated flakes instead. You'd pour the boiling water in and whoosh, the smell hit you. It didn't smell like a farm, it smelt like a chemistry set. You'd fork it through, trying to get the lumps out, but there were always lumps. Always. It had a texture that was somehow both gritty and slimy at the same time. but we ate it with our sausages and we felt terribly modern. And once you'd finished your space-age main course, it was time for the chemical miracle of dessert. Angel Delight. Angel Delight. Basically, it was a bag of sugar and thickeners that claimed to be a mousse. You put the powder in a bowl, added milk, and then the whisking began. Every child in the 70s knew the sound. Whisk, whisk, whisk. You watched in amazement as this pink dust suddenly bubbled in volume. It fluffed up. It defied gravity. We usually had the strawberry flavor, which tasted absolutely nothing like a strawberry that had ever grown on planet Earth. It tasted like pink. Just sweet, aggressive pink, or maybe butterscotch, which was essentially just sugar wearing a fancy hat. You'd put it in the fridge to set, and if you were lucky, you got to lick the whisk. That was the highlight of the week. Eating it was strange, though. It dissolved instantly on your tongue. It was 90% air. You could eat a gallon of it and still feel hungry. But for 5 minutes, sitting there with a plastic spoon eating your bowl of pink fluff, you felt like royalty. Now, let's talk about culture, or rather the illusion of culture. In the 1970s, international travel was expensive, and we didn't just hop on a cheap flight to Thailand or backpack through India. Most of us went to Skegness for a week and sat in the rain. But we craved adventure. We wanted to be sophisticated. We wanted to eat something that didn't involve gravy. Enter Vesta Curries. Aha, the Vesta box. Just seeing that packaging in the cupboard made you feel like a cosmopolitan traveler. It promised the exotic tastes of the Orient right there in your drizzly British kitchen. The concept was baffling. It was a curry, but it was dehydrated. It looked like gravel. You emptied this bag of dried granules into a pan, added water, and boiled it for 20 minutes until it rehydrated into sort of brown sludge. But the smell... it smelt of curry powder. Lots of it. The taste, however, was purely British. It wasn't spicy, good heavens no. Spice was considered dangerous in 1974. If you gave a 70s dad a real chili pepper, he might have called the police. So Vesta curries were sweet. In fact, they put sultanas, raisins, in the beef curry. That was the logic back then. This foreign food is a bit scary. Let's throw some dried fruit in it to calm everyone down. But the real star of the show, the absolute pinnacle of Saturday night luxury, was the Vesta chow mein. Not because of the noodles, but because of the crispy noodles. Crunch. They came in a separate little packet. They weren't really noodles, they were deep-fried twigs of dough. They tasted of oil and salt and absolutely nothing else. But when you sprinkled them on top of that rehydrated sauce, oh my, you felt like you were dining in a palace in Hong Kong. You'd sit there on your beige sofa, eating your dehydrated curry with a fork, watching the Generation Game and thinking, this is it. This is the high life. We weren't eating food, we were eating a dream that tasted slightly of cardboard, but a dream nonetheless. Finally, we need to talk about health and safety, or rather, the complete lack of it. If you grew up in the 70s, you know that danger wasn't just outside, it was in the freezer. It was lurking inside a bright orange box labelled Findus Crispy Pancakes. Ooh, just saying the name makes my gums throb. On the surface, they looked innocent enough, a half-moon of breadcrumbs filled with minced beef or cheese. You put them in the oven for 20 minutes and they came out golden and crispy. But this was a trap, a cruel culinary trap. You see, the laws of physics inside a Findus pancake were different. While the outside was pleasantly warm, the filling inside had reached the temperature of molten lava. It was actual napalm. But we were kids. We were hungry. We didn't wait. You'd take a bite, crunch, and then hiss. The filling would explode. The cheese, superheated to 1,000 degrees, would glue itself to the roof of your mouth. You'd sit there, eyes watering, mouth open, desperately breathing in cold air. Ha, ha, trying to cool the magma burning through your palate. Did we stop eating? Did we spit it out? Absolutely not. We swallowed it. We accepted the 3rd-degree burns as the price of dinner. It was a rite of passage. It toughened us up. You learned very quickly in the 70s that if you wanted the cheesy goodness, you had to be willing to lose a layer of skin. Looking back, it's easy to laugh. The nutritionist today would have a heart attack looking at our diet. It was salty. It was processed. It was overwhelmingly beige. There wasn't a vitamin to be found within a 3-mile radius of our dinner tables. But here is the thing. Why do we still smile when we see a tin of Spam? Why do we feel a little tug in our chest when we talk about Angel Delight? It's not about the taste. God knows it's not about the taste. It's because the 1970s was a scary time. The lights went out. The heating stopped working. The news was full of angry people shouting. But inside the kitchen, with the windows steamed up, there was certainty. Frey Bentos never let you down. Smash was always there. Vesta always tasted exactly the same. These tins and packets were reliable friends in an unreliable world. They were the taste of safety. They were the taste of home. So tonight, maybe don't cook that kale smoothie. Go on, buy a tin of peaches, drown them in evaporated milk, and raise a spoon to the golden age of bad food. Cheers.